Our next story comes from CLR James, and it is read by the ever-capable Leslie Ann Beckles. And the name of the story is La Divina Pastora. Now, for the people that living in Faizabad, tell us where you're from now. In the chat right here on Zoom or on Facebook, just put which patch is right now, right? Because I in Faizabad, I don't know where you is. It might have bigger jumbie by me than it have by you. But La Divina Pastora is something from Separia, which is not too far from where I am right now. Leslie, I know you have this thing to read. Please don't frighten me too much. Separia right down the road. I'm not. Yeah? When you're ready, you go right ahead.
Of my own belief in this story, I shall say nothing. What I have done is to put it down as far as possible, just as it was told to me, in my own style, but with no addition to or subtraction from the essential facts. Anita Perez lived with her mother at Bandeles Road, just at the corner where North Trace joins the main road. She had one aim. She considered it her duty to be married as quickly as possible. This because in that retired spot, it marked the sweet perfection of a woman's existence. And secondly, because feminine youth and beauty, if they exist, it early the hard work on the cocoa plantation. Every morning of the week, Sunday accepted, she banded down her hair and donned a skirt which reached to her knees, not with any pretensions, fashion, but so that from 7 till 5 she might pick cocoa, or cut cocoa, or dry cocoa, or in some other way assist in the working of Mr. Kyle Smith's cocoa estate. She did this for 30 cents a day and did it uncomplainingly because her mother and father had done it before her and had thriven on it. On Sundays, she dressed herself in one of her few dresses, put on a little gold chain, her only ornament, and went to mass. She had no thought of women's rights, nor any Ibsenic theories of morality. All she knew was that it was her duty to get married when she was lucky, this hard life in the cocoa would cease. Every night for the past 2 years, Sebastian Montagnio came down from his 4-room mansion half a mile up the trace and spent about an hour, sometimes much more, with the Perez family. Always he sat on a bench by the door, rolling cheap cigarettes and half hiding himself in the smoke. He was not fair to outward view, but yet Anita loved him. Frequently, half an hour would elapse without a word from either. She knitting or sewing steadily. Sebastian watching her contentedly, and Mrs. Perez sitting on the ground just outside the door, smoking one of Sebastian's cigarettes and carrying on a ceaseless monologue in the local patois. Always when Sebastian left, the good woman rated Anita for not being kinder to him. Sebastian owned a few acres of cocoa and a large provision garden. Mrs. Perez had an idea that Anita's marriage would mean relief from the cocoa work, not only for Anita, but also for her. Anita herself said nothing. She was not the talking kind. At much expense and trouble, Sebastian sent her a greeting card each Christmas. On them were beautiful words, which Anita spelled through so often that she got to know them by heart. Otherwise, nothing passed between them. But he loved no one else, she was sure. Otherwise, but it was a great consolation. But did he love her? Or was it only because his house was dull and lonely, and theirs was just at the corner and he came down every night? As the months slipped by, Anita anxiously watched her natural pale face in the broken mirror. It was haggard and drawn with watching and waiting for Sebastian to speak. She was not young, and her manner was not attractive. The gossiping neighbors looked upon her as Sebastian's property. Even in the cocoa house dances, Sebastian never went because he did not dance. She was left to herself most of the time, and then she loved him. It came about that Anita's aunt, who lived in Superior, paid her a surprise visit one Sunday. She had not visited North for years and might never come back again. Consequently, there were many things to be talked about. Also, the good lady wanted to know what Anita was doing for herself. And when will you be married, my Sherry? She asked, secure in the possession of 3 children and her husband. Anita, aching for confidence, poured forth her simple troubles into the married lady's sympathetic way. Mrs. Perez expatiated on Sebastian's worldly goods. Mrs. Reyes, you remember, came from Superior. Get close at once, Gil, she said. You will have to miss this week in the cocoa, but don't mind. I know someone who can help, and that is La Divina. Of La Divina, Pastora, the Superior saint, many things can be written. But here, only this much needs to be said. It is a small image of some 2 feet in height, which stands in the Roman Catholic Church at Superior. To it go many pilgrims from all parts of the island at all times of the year. This one with an incurable malady, that one with a long successions of business misfortunes, other with a private grudge against some fellow creature to be satisfied, some out of mere curiosity. Once a year, there used to be a special festival, the Superior Fete, when besides the worshippers, many hundreds of sightseers and gamblers gathered at the little village, and for a week there was wild bacchanalian carouses going on side by side with the religious celebration. This has been modified, but still the pilgrims go. For many, the saint is nothing more than a symbol of the divine. More, like the Perez family, possesses limitless powers of its own to help the importunate. Both parties receives presents of all descriptions, money, frequently, but oft-times a gift from the suppliant. A gold ring, perhaps, or a brooch, or some other article of jewelry. Anita had no money. Her aunt had to pay her passage, but she carried the little gold chain with her, the maiden's mite. With the quiet hum of the country village in her ears, Anita placed the chain around the neck of the saint and prayed. Prayed for what perhaps every woman except Eve has prayed for, the love of the man she loved. That Sunday night when Sebastian reached Madame Perez's house, the even tenor of his way sustained a rude shock. Anita was not there. She had gone to Superior and was not coming back till next Sunday by the last train. Wouldn't he come in and sit down? Sebastian came in and sat down on his old seat near the door. Mrs. Perez sat outside commenting on the high price of the shop goods generally, especially tobacco. But Sebastian did not answer. He was experiencing new sensations. He missed Anita's quiet face, her steady, nimble fingers, her glance at him, and then away. Whenever he spoke, he felt ill at ease, somehow disturbed, troubled. It is probable that he recognized the cause of his trouble. For when Anita landed at Princestown the next Sunday, Tony the cabman came up to her and said, Sebastian told me to bring you up alone, Anita. And he had to say it again before she could understand. During that 6-mile drive, Anita sat in the corner of the cab, awed and expectant. Fate she had. For this, she was not prepared. It was too sudden. And if the saint had nothing to do with it. He met Sebastian walking slowly down the road to meet them. For an hour he had been standing by her house, and as soon as the cab passed, started in his impatience to meet her on the way. The cab stopped, and he was courageous enough to help her down. The cabman jumped down to the light of his lamps, and the two stood waiting hand in hand as he drove off. Sebastian turned to her. Nita, he said, shortening her name for the first time. I missed you, Nita. God, how I missed you. Anita was happy, very happy indeed. In her newfound happiness, she came near to forgetting the saint, whose answer had come so quickly. Sebastian himself was very little changed. Still, he came every night. Still, Mrs. Perez smoked his cigarette, ruminating now on her blissful future. Things were different. So different, in fact, that Sebastian proposed taking her to the little Cocoa House dance, which was to come off in a day or two. It was the first time that they were going out together since that Sunday. Everybody who didn't know before would know now. When they saw Sebastian taking her to the dance, a thing he had never done before. She dressed herself up with care in the blue muslin dress. And what with the happiness and excitement, more beautiful than she had ever seen herself. As she cast another look in the mirror, she missed something. How I wish, she said, with a genuine note of regret in her voice. How I wish I had my little gold chain. Here, her mother, determined not to jeopardize her future, called sharply to her. She came out radiant. The dance continued till long after 5 o'clock, but Anita had to leave at 3. Sebastian got tired of sitting down in the corner of the room while she whisked around. He felt just a trifle sulky. He had wanted to leave an hour before, but she was drinking of an intoxicating mixture of admiration, success, and excitement, and implored him to stay a little longer. They went home almost in silence. He sleepy, she tired. He's thinking of the other offended. It was the first little cloud between them. Nothing, thought Anita. We shall make it up tomorrow night. She thought of something and smiled, but she peeped at Sebastian and saw him peeping at her. She assumed a more serious expression. Tomorrow, not tonight. Once inside the bathroom, she started to undress quickly, took out a few pins, and went to the table to put them down in the cigarette tin in which she kept her knickknacks. Her mother, who was lying on the bed and listening with half-closed eyes to Anita's account of the dance, was startled by the sudden silence, followed by the sound of a heavy fall. She sprang down quickly, bent over the prostrate form of Anita, and turned to the little table to get the smelling salt. And she herself stood motionless as if stricken, her senseless daughter lying unheeded on the floor. There in its old place in the cigarette tin lay a little gold chain.
You see, when you give something to La Divina, you can't take it back. Because if you take back your gift to Mama, then what you think she will do with what she gave to you? And the poor girl learned that the hard way. So ladies, especially the unmarried ladies that are watching us on Zoom and on Facebook, if it is you want to find your own Sebastian, go down to Paria. Talk to La Divina and see what she could do. She could change your life. Mm-hmm. She could change your life. Mm-hmm. Leslie Ann, thank you very much for that excellent reading of CLR James's short story, La Divina Pastora.